afternoon, people. God bless this moment. My name is Curtis, and I am a recovering addict. Pastor and I are pretty close. He's one of my customers. He's somebody that I've known in the community for a long time, so I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to share on something that I'm so passionate about. Addiction is something that's destroying not only the black community, but many communities. I want to be able to do my part in helping heal that. I'll start off telling you a little bit about myself. I was born in Brooklyn, moved to Long Island when I was a youngster, grew up in Long Island, and I was a good kid. I was mischievous, but I was a pretty good kid. Played sports, ran around the streets with my friends, stuff like that, and got really good grades in school. I grew up with an identity crisis. My problem was that when I grew up in Amityville. So when I was in Amityville, I was being told I talked like a white boy. And when I went up to Farmerdale School District, I was being called a nigger, right? Excuse me. This is in the mid-70s. So, racism was like really big and stuff like that. I come from a school district where there were like racial riots and stuff like that. Bottom line is I grew up trying to prove myself all over the place, right? So white people, I was trying to prove that I was just as good as they were. And when I got home, when I was around black people, I was trying to prove that I was just as black as they were. So when we were on a basketball court, it was like, oh, I talk like a white boy? Check, let's see if you can stop me. When I was in school, though, it was all about, I got a 95 on the test. What did you get? And if it was lower than me, I was like, well, who's the nigga now? And I never found a place where I could fit in, that I felt comfortable in my own skin. And that's a common thing for most addicts, is that we can be in a room full of 100 people, but we never find a place where we feel not alone. And that's what it was for me. Like I said, I had friends, stuff like that, and it wasn't horrible. I come from a family of 5. I'm the youngest of 5 kids, 3 older sisters than my brother than me. And, excuse me, we come from a loving family, parents that I kissed goodnight all the way until I was 16 years old. My father worked for New York City Transit, you know what I'm saying? My mother, she was a housewife. And single income family, we didn't have a whole lot, but we had a lot of love. There was no emotional abuse, no physical, verbal abuse. If you did something wrong, you got beaten. You know what I'm saying? And they told you why you were going to get beaten, and you got beaten, right? And, normal upbringing. We had our issues, we had our, we had our bit of dysfunction, but it was nothing crazy. So there was no real excuse for me going out and doing anything crazy. Because I was trying to prove myself in athletics, I was able to go to college playing football. I love sports, but there was a little more oomph to it. I always felt like I could prove something. I went to college and drank. My father was an addict. I realized after I got into Narcotics Anonymous, after I got into a 12-step program, that my father was an addict. My father was a highly functioning addict. So he smoked weed, he did things. His motto, right, God rest his soul, and he did the best that he could with what he was given, because his father wasn't around, right? So he did the best he could with what he was given to raise 5 kids. And I appreciate him. I mean, he's the reason why I am who I am today. Him and my mother. You know what I'm saying? They didn't always teach me exactly what to do, but they told me a lot of what not to do. You know what I mean? And they did the very best that they could with the tools that they were given. So I respect, love, and honor them. But my father wasn't a functioning addict. And his motto was, it's not what you do, it's how you do it. Now, I try to take on that motto. I want to also let you know that addiction is a hereditary disease. And addiction is a compulsive and obsessive disorder to do anything until it's detrimental for your health. So we're talking about, like, if I eat too much Breyers ice cream, I'll eat Breyers ice cream until I pop. If it takes me outside of myself, it makes me feel better about who I am. I'll smoke weed, I'll do drugs, but that's just a symptom of the disease, which is addiction. The disease of addiction will have me spending money that I shouldn't be spending to make me feel better. It'll have me dating people that I don't want to date to make me feel better. There's sexual addictions, there's eating, there's overeating, there's all kinds of addictions. And I'm in a fellowship and a 12-step program that addresses all of those addictions, because it addresses addiction as a whole. So my father was a highly functioning addict, and because the disease of addiction is hereditary, it's literally passed down through genes. That gene was given to me, and it was probably given to my brothers and sisters also, but it manifested itself in drugs in me. I got that gene, and instead of, when I heard him say it's not what you do, it's how you do it, that was because his addiction and the way that he did things, he was able to be highly functioning. I was not able to be highly functioning. I couldn't keep a job, my addiction got out of control, and it got out of control fast. I tried to stick to that model, I wasn't able to do it. After he died in 1988, when I went for my first year in college, I was absolutely distraught, a wreck. I was angry at the world. I was angry at God. I come from a spiritual family. I know God is a loving God, not a get you God. My mother and father told me who God was, and they told me, he gets very upset, and he cries when you do bad things, because he don't want to see you do that. So the bottom line is that I understood a loving, caring God. I tried to do those right things, but after my father died, I was upset and I was very angry. He died of cancer. He withered away like 85 pounds. I got to witness this whole process. Him weakening, him not being able to control, bowel movements and all that stuff like that. Having to wear a diaper. I watched him cry because of this, and I was mad at God. I was real mad. Because this dude was my hero. I played catch with me, you know what I'm saying? He taught me how to be better at athletics. So when people would talk and jump, that I could do this to him on the court or on a football field. Anyway, when he passed away, I was messed up. And all the rules of life that he told me, I threw them out the window. I was like, nice guys finish last, this dude, he was messed up, he had his own things going on, but he died the way he did. So you know what? That's how you can go out. Being a good father and the leader of a family and doing everything that you can to see that we have what we need, then you know what? The rules is there ain't no rules. So I'm going to do what I want to do. So I went and I started in the streets. I tried to sell drugs. I tried to do all kinds of stuff. All the college stuff went out the window. I was done with all of it. And I quickly found myself using and being my own best customer. And it quickly went downhill. Quick. It wasn't long before it went way downhill. The compulsion to use the drug became stronger and stronger and stronger. I did things that I was horrifically ashamed of, committed acts of violence and things like that. It was a real problem. And this is not where I come from. You knew me, you knew my parents, you knew my family, you would know that this is not where I come from. So the disease of addiction had the ability to change me into somebody that I'm not at all. Right? I was incarcerated multiple times, many times. First started off with stints in Riverhead Jail, and then I went upstate. Prison time. And these things are not a deterrent when you're a drug addict. And all of this was because of the fact that I wasn't talking to people and letting them know that there were situations and problems that I thought I could not handle. Because I come from a place where it was all about handle your business. A man handles his business. He takes care of his business. That's it. So I remember when the pain got great enough. I was on parole. They sent me to a rehab. I did 28 days in that rehab. I came home. They told me to change some things. I didn't listen. And I ended up using for 3 of the hardest years of my life. Right? I never got locked up during that time. I was just using constantly. My mother, my poor mother, right? God rest her soul. She was my biggest enabler. Now, she did what she did for me because of the fact that she felt like the way to get me back was to love me. Right? Her love was killing me. She constantly gave me money because she didn't want me to go out in the street and crime to use. I used her badly, very badly. Because the disease, as much as I love my mother, the disease of addiction told me, you use her. If she's going to give you money, you take it. And if she's not willing to give you money, you trust her. I mean, I stole from her. I did all kinds of stuff. I stole from my brothers, my sister. You know what I mean? I did messed up things. And all that was done before I went out in the street and started doing craziness. Because I was afraid of the consequences that went out there. But the addiction even made me surpass that fear. But my mother, she was my biggest enemy. And I'll never forget the day that she told me it's over. So I was getting high and using drugs on the south side of Bay Shore. We lived on the north side of Bay Shore at that time. I called her to call me a cab. This is how crazy it was. I called my mother. She used to send a cab for me to bring me home, give me money, and then send me out of there with a cab. And I think it was, I know, I'm not going to say that thing. I think it was just to keep me off her. You know, she didn't want to deal with me. So that was the way to get me out of the house and keep me going. So I called her and told her, could she send it for me in a cab? I'd been out for probably about 4 or 5 days, no sleep, no meals, just like beer, potato chips and things like that. My drug of choice was crack cocaine. And that's all I did though. You know, when I was in the streets, when I was going on a drug binge, it was that. I started selling cocaine, I started sniffing cocaine, somebody introduced me to crack, and it was a rap, and that's what I started doing. I called her and asked her to send a cab for me. Her words, which I can't use in this church, but I'll give you a different quote. She said, you walked your black behind out there, you can walk your black behind back. And I said, wow. And that was the first time she ever talked to me like that concerning my drug use or any money that I was asking for. I knew it was a rap. I hung the phone up, and the longest walk in my life, and I walked long, long ways. The longest walk was after being up for 4 or 5 days from the south side of Bay Shore to the north side of Bay Shore to get to my mom's house. And when I got there, she had washed an outfit of mine. She had exchanged clothes. She had a plate of food of all my favorite stuff, like almost like a Thanksgiving dinner. And she told me, you can eat this. I want you to go in the bathroom, take a shower. You can eat this meal, you can change your clothes, and after this, you walk in this. She said, I refuse to watch you kill yourself another day. You're not going to die on my watch. Now, if you don't go on the street, you go on the street. And I'll never forget the pain that was in her face when she said that to me. I mean, that was, so the pain that was in her face was horrific. I still remember it to this day. I'll never forget the pain in her face when she had to tell her baby boy he got her. And she didn't know what was going to happen to me. And that's why she held on so tightly and tried to enable me. Because she didn't want to hand me over to the streets. You know, she didn't want to hand me over to the care of God. She didn't want to know or feel that she couldn't do anything else about this situation and that God would have to handle the rest. That has to be hard as a child. You know, I have a child, and I can't imagine having to go through something like that. So, the beautiful thing about that was that she saved my life that day. I called her, she laid 2 numbers on the dresser and said, you can call these places, they can help you. She said, but after this, I don't know what else to do for you. I called the place, they told me that I could get in like 3 days. I stayed at the house. She said, you can stay here if you go into this place. If you're not going to this place, you gotta go. She said, the day you have to go, you're leaving here. I don't care if you go to the place or not. She had relinquished all control. So, I told her, listen, I'll go. I was so broken at that time that I was willing to do anything to get clean. And that's exactly how God needed me. God needed me in a position where I would have done anything. If you told me to do a handstand in the middle of this church and walk out the door on my hands, I would have attempted to do it if that meant that I would get clean and not have to feel the pain of addiction anymore. I wouldn't leave the house at all. I remember her saying, do you want to go get some, do you have any cigarettes left? I said, no. She was like, here, I'll give you $10 so you can walk and get some cigarettes. And I remember when I told my mother, I said, Mom, if I leave here and you have money, I'm going to use it. Right? I said, I love you enough to tell you that, and I don't want to do it anymore. But if you give me money, if you tell me to go get cigarettes, I'm not going to get cigarettes. I'm going to go get drugs. So I don't want to do that. We cried, we hugged. She sent my sister to bring me a pack of cigarettes. I called a place, and this is God, right? They told me to call back every other day to see if a bed opened up. I called back every day. The second day, a bed opened up for me. I was leaving the next day. I went to the place. It was a 28-day rehab. I've been clean ever since. That was February 15th of 1998. I have 23 years clean, right? It's been quite a journey. And I've seen some very dark days in and out of addiction. But see, a lot of people think that getting clean is going to be, it is a new lease on life, but it's not a cakewalk. Because now I'm forced to live the life that you guys have been living who are not in addiction the entire time. Right? And I handicap myself by not being clean so that I can emotionally grow to the level of being able to handle life's events. Because that's what addiction is. Addiction is a disease of the emotions, right? I had zero coping skills when I came into narcotics. When I came into the 12-step fellowship that I go to, I had zero coping skills, right? I wasn't able to handle life's problems as they approach, like the normal human being would. I needed something to buffer the pain, sometimes the joy. Every event in life was a moment to use. Oh, somebody's having a baby, let's get drunk. Oh, somebody died, let's get drunk. Somebody graduated, let's get drunk. Let's get high, let's smoke weed. Something, right? There was always an opportunity to do something to get outside of ourselves. And there was nothing off limits. Everything was the same way. So, when I came to the 12-step fellowship, I realized that the coping skills that I needed for life weren't there. So I had to learn them. It took time, And we talk about practicing things, right? We practice all these, things, for the rest of in all our affairs. Practice is repetition in something until you get better at it. So I don't ever get cured. The disease of addiction is incurable, fatal, insidious, it's incurable. I'll never be away from addiction. I'll never be able to not be addicted. Progressive, incurable, and fatal. It can kill me, and it is progressive. Literature that I read from the 12-step fellowship that I attend tells me that it's progressive even during times of abstinence. So even though I've been clean for 23 years, if I pick up the drug, it'll be like I never stopped using. Right? The disease of addiction is not one that's outside doing push-ups, or it's not in the car, or it's not waiting for me at the drug spot. It's right here in the pew, sitting here, talking to my mind right now. You know what I'm saying? It's saying, no one's here, you should shut up. No one's here, you don't need to talk. And look, because we're in church, I can say it. It's the devil. It's Satan. And even when I'm trying to do the right things, most of the time when I'm trying to do the right things, Satan is right next to you like, you're making a fool of yourself. There's probably nobody really looking at this thing online. There's only a couple people in here. You're making an idiot of yourself. You need to stop this right now. And you know what my job to do is now, that I've been trained to do in the 12-step fellowship, is tell them, thanks for sharing, and keep doing what I'm doing. I don't have to listen to that guy today. And that dude looks like me. He looks like a young version of me. He's slim, he's trim, he keeps a haircut. You know what I'm saying? His hair is not gray anymore. He's in great shape. He wears a red suit. He wears a black suit with a red tie. I have a visual image of this guy. He looks like me, he sounds like me, and this is why I listened to him for so many years. I listened to him because he talks just like I talk. He's a familiar voice. I don't listen to him anymore. I'm not listening to him. I've been trained not to listen to that. So, when I do messed up things, he's there to remind me how messed up I am. Even now, clean. Even more back then. The disease of addiction would tell me, Satan would tell me to do things. He would say, yo, let's do this burger. Let's do this rock. Right? Right after I did it. And I felt horrible. He would be like, you're really gone. You're a piece of garbage. And I'm like, you just told me to do it. He was like, yeah, I told you to do it. But doesn't mean you're supposed to do it. What kind of God-fearing man are you? And I picked up a faith that I'm getting back to that when I was locked up. And the bottom line is I love this faith. Right? I'm a spiritual man. I've always had a spiritual connection. Drugs will take you so far away from that, it's ridiculous. And that's the first thing to go and the very last thing to come back when you after you get clean. So your love of God and your relationship with God leaves. The first thing to leave once I pick up drugs. And when you get clean and you start on your road back, I get money. I get all kinds of stuff. I get social acceptability. I'm able to get a job, make a living, and all stuff like that. But the last thing to come back is that relationship with God. It was so hard to get it back this time, I'm never letting it go. I have a working relationship with the God of my understanding. And it's been working for 23 years, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I talk to him. When Satan or the disease, whichever one you want to call it, starts talking to me, I start talking to God. You know? And we're able to get through it, day at a time. A day at a time. You know, that's what we talk about in this 12-step fellowship, a day at a time. So, getting clean has bore fruit. I owned a barbershop in Brentwood for 10 years, worked in the barbershop for 20 years, worked there 10 years, bought it from the guy and owned it for 10 years, you know, donated and sponsored football teams, and I was known as Mr. Kurt, and all that stuff like that, right? I would talk to the guys that came into the barbershop about what I did. You know, they used to call me OG, stuff like that. Let them know, you don't have to live like that. You know, put your pants up. You couldn't go to my barbershop and get a haircut with your drawers showing. I mean, we're not doing it, right? So, you know, I was able, by God's grace, to give back through that and through this 12-step fellowship a lot of what was given to me. And that's how I stayed here. That's how I stayed doing what I'm doing. Some of the social issues that go on with the disease of addiction is that now, opioid addiction, you know, it's a pandemic. Right? When dope ravaged our communities in the 60s and 70s, when crack ravaged our communities in the 80s and 90s, nobody was calling it an epidemic. It was lock them up, put them in jail. So right now, I'm in school to get a bachelor's in psychology so that I can become a caseworker with parole and probation so that I can help make a decision on who can get help or who should get help. And I'm not saying that I'm going to be biased for black people or anything like that, but I want to make sure that this is real. I want to make sure that the people that have been being told that this is an epidemic and we're going to get you some help and we're going to get you, you know, out of this and all this stuff like that, I want to make sure that black people are getting the same opportunities as those people. That's the deal. Because I've seen, because of the fact that in this church basement, I was making a 12-step meeting every Wednesday. And what I've seen is that black people don't come in talking about, oh, they offered me so-and-so program and all this stuff like that. They come here talking about something different. I just got out of jail, you know, because of my addiction. I did so and so amount of time, and I just came home. You know, they're not telling the same stories as other people that are in the fellowship that I go to. And I want to see and make sure that I'm not just tripping. You know, I want to be there to see what's going on. So that's something that I'm going to make happen. I love this. I live this because God gave me an opportunity to do so. I see a lot of young people that are, you know, they used to come in the barbershop and they don't believe that they can end up being me or in a situation like me, right? So like I said, I can tell you, I went to college, you know, I hung out, I was in the streets, I sold drugs, and I ended up an addict. I ended up a bad addict. You know, I know a lot of people, they think, you know what I'm saying, to themselves, especially young people, they think to themselves, that could never happen. And that's what I thought. I became somebody who I ridiculed. I became somebody who I thought I could never, ever turn out to be. So, the humility that I learned through that is that everybody's eligible. All it takes is a couple of bad decisions at some crossroads in your life, and we can all get jammed up. And I understand that when you're young, you don't think, first of all, you barely think you can lose your life. Especially you think that you can't get caught up in addiction, you know what I'm saying? Or do some of the things that I've done. And I understand, you know what I'm saying? But to that, I would say, stay humble, stay smart, make good decisions, and you will fulfill that prophecy in your head that it can never happen to you. But if you make bad decisions, and if you hang out with the wrong people, and if you make a couple of decisions at crossroads in your life that I made, I promise you, you can end up exactly where I was. So, I would like to see everyone do something better than what I did. I came out of this smelling like a rose. 23 years clean, I've been to a lot of funerals. The disease is progressive, incurable, and fatal. A lot of people forget about how fatal this thing is. This thing kills you. Now you got the fentanyl, you know, and heroin, and you get pills today. You don't know if you don't get it from a pharmacist in a CVS or something like that. You don't know if that pill was melted down and repressed with fentanyl. So people are taking pills off the street that they don't know what they're taking and stuff like that. So you are literally taking your life in your hands. You know, people are smoking weed. Now I used to work at a rehab. You would be surprised at what they put fentanyl. People are smoking weed off the street. They're not getting it from, you know, dispensaries and stuff like that. They're putting fentanyl in the weed. The cocaine has fentanyl in it to make it smooth. Because it's an upper, you know what I'm saying, or stimulant, and they make it smoother by putting fentanyl in it. The crack has fentanyl in it. You know, it's insane. One granule of this stuff can kill you. And they put it in other drugs, and you don't even know. You think you get one drug and you're getting something that has fentanyl in it, and it can kill you. So this is the chance you take today using drugs. So I've been to a lot of funerals. I mean, literally have been in this church basement, talking to a guy, laughing with him. Then we go outside, we in the parking lot. We having a good time. We right here. Right? Meeting's over, we call that the meeting after the meeting. Next week, he's not here. I'm like, yo, where's so-and-so? Oh, he died. He overdosed. You kidding me? I don't want it to be me. So there's no more one more time. It's over. It's over. We are, you know, I'm with a group of people that are working hard toward becoming better people so that I can affect society in a way where not only God will be proud of me, but that my parents will be really proud of me. And I know that they're proud now. I live a life that's amazing. I've traveled, I've been to like 7, 8 different countries. You know, I'm 51 years old. I had a child at 50. First child. These are the blessings that I never thought of my children. You know, I raised a child through a marriage, got divorced. But I stayed in that marriage as toxic as it was because of the fact that I raised her son from 6 months old to 12 years old. And I never thought that I could have one of my own. Because I don't use drugs, I'm giving myself opportunities in life. You know? Because I look at things a certain way because of the 12-step fellowship that I go to, I look at life differently. People are like, oh man, one of those fellowships, they brainwash you. Yeah, my brain needed washing. My brain needed to scrub and rinse so I could get rid of some of the negative things that I thought all the time. And it was just that, it was just that. I just needed to adhere to a different way of thinking. So when I came into the rooms of the 12-step fellowship that I go to, they told me that I had my glasses and the lenses in backwards. And I don't even wear glasses at that time. So what it is that, you know, if I'm wearing these glasses right now, when I look through them this way, things are made bigger. But if I flip them around, you guys get smaller. So I had lenses in backwards. And I was seeing things, metaphorically, the wrong way. So they helped me to flip the lenses around. And when they did, I was blown away by what I could see. It was clear as a bell. Clear as a bell. Crystal clear. So I started doing things differently. And, yeah. I live in a way now that I want my daughter to live. She's 19 months old, she'll be 20 months old soon, the 24th this month. And I live in a way, she's never going to know that her father, she's never going to exceed that her father did drugs or drank or anything like that. She's going to grow up understanding that education is key. She's going to grow up understanding that drinking and drugs, that's not cool. You know what I'm saying? When she gets older, we'll explain to her why it's not cool. But the bottom line is she's never going to grow up seeing us put a drink to our face or a drug in our mouth or doing anything that because she's got the addiction drug. My fiance is an addict. She's an addict too. I met her in the rooms of the 12-step fellowship that I go to. So she's got the gene from both of us. The last thing we need is to be doing anything so that she can start doing it, but she could possibly go that way too. So you could have, anybody can have the addiction gene, but not have it manifested in those types of ways. But she's not going to ever have to witness that. That's a miracle. Because I never thought I was going to live a life where I wasn't at least smoking some weed and drinking beers. I never thought that. I would not be able to casually drink at a wedding, you know. So that's an absolute miracle. And the disease doesn't manifest itself in too many negative ways in my life today. I play video games. That's where it really. I play this poker video game. It's nuts. So I stay up all night. It's crazy. But the bottom line is that the disease is not doing anything or manifesting itself in a way where the destruction is apparent in my life. I don't overwork. I don't overeat anymore. I found out I was a type 2 diabetic about 4 months ago. I had to lose 30 pounds. I had to watch what I eat because addiction transfers itself. So if I start using drugs, I start smoking cigarettes, right? Start vaping. But the vaping is not as good as a cigarette. So I started eating. I went up to 255 pounds over the pandemic. I had to lose 30 pounds. They told me I was a type 2 diabetic. They told me that I needed to change my diet. You know, I'm 50 years old. I'm 51 years old, so my daughter was born, I was 50. By the time she graduates high school, I'm going to be 67. You know, you don't make it if you're not eating right. So I lose some weight. Because of the fact that I have this 12-step fellowship, I go to them and I tell them, listen, let's put this on the table as one of the addictions that I have to deal with. And just like drugs, just like cigarettes, just like anything else, I put that on the table and I deal with it the same way that I dealt with the drugs and the addiction, and I'm able to beat it. So that's what happens in my life. The disease is always going to manifest itself. The disease of addiction is always going to manifest itself in my life. in some way. When I put it out somewhere, it's like whack-a-mole. Y'all know that game, right? I knock it down one place, it pops up in another. I'm wiping down that place, it pops up in another spot. And I have to deal with that for the rest of my life, and I'm okay with that. Because I'm just going to keep whacking it down. You know? That's just how it works. Now, I want to live a good life. I want to be a good example. You know, I want to be a good leader and preach my home. You know? I want to be a good example for not only my fiance and my daughter, but for society. You know? So, you know, I want to live a life that when I leave here, people will say, yo, we tried to help some people. That's it. I just want to be an NFL football player, NBA basketball. I don't need none of that anymore. I want fame, fortune, you know, be a household name because of the fact that I just want to be a normal guy who helps some people. Yeah. It's easy, you know, a lot easier. So I'm very grateful that I was asked to do this. I really am. I want to thank you guys for being here listening. And if I helped you, that wasn't me. That was God speaking through me to you, because I prayed hard before God. That's why I would say anything stupid or carry any message silly. So I'm really appreciative that you guys gave me this opportunity. And thank you, Pastor Mosley. Bless you. I'll talk to you guys.